a one-act play written and staged by Wolfgang Vogel. Title, Life Magazine. A staged session. Setting, a bare stage divided into two zones. Stage left, the clinician's chair, simple and upright, neutral. Stage right, the patient's space, a low stool and a small side table with a stack of old Life magazines and a single envelope that's unopened. Lighting, a soft, cool wash over the clinician, a warmer shifting pooling of light over the patient that changes subtly with each image. Sound, a faint low room tone hum that deepens during the memory sequence. Lights up, the patient sits stage right, slightly hunched. The clinician sits stage left, still and attentive. Clinician, tell me about your relationship with your body. Patient, looking down at his hands, a small exhale. Well, it's really funny that you should ask. I don't see a relationship with my body, but I do see my body. But in this case, it always seems to belong to somebody else, to the other. A slight shift in lighting, warmer, more interior. The patient continues. Sometimes I think it's a disturbance in the field of language and logic, and in a way it's our own thoughts made flesh. I got that from David Cronenberg. He was big, as you recall, into body transformations. Often they would verge on the horrific. For me, there was always something to remember, something trying to push through, something that I trace back, I don't know, to that wound, to an opening, something that fell through. He glances at the magazines, then away, and continues. But there's no shutting out of this vessel, this body, and this unthought known, as Christopher Bolus termed it, this unthought known, and how it makes its way into this physical relationship, something crawling towards, or crawling out of, maybe always crawling towards the other. But isn't it in some way just we're always crawling towards the mother? A small pause. He lifts his head slightly. Lighting warms to a soft gold. A faint lullaby motif begins. Music box tones, distant. Patient murmurs a distant memory. The little child lying in the sunroom. The shades are open. The curtains are apart. It's a warm midsummer's day. I know, the mother sits by the crib. The child cries and cries and cries. But the mother doesn't know why. The patient opens his hands, palms up, the lullaby fades. Clinician leaning forward slightly. So the infant cries, and there's a walking towards, and you mentioned a walking away. But the maternal figure is always there. It really is just a function. The client suddenly begins singing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dougie. The sound of the first birthday being sung. The child laughs. Clinician. It's that which grows out of the cut, the initial wound. That's the relationship that we're having. A tiny flicker of light, just like candles on a birthday cake. Patient sits more upright. I often wonder what happens when we turn on the television set and we begin to watch it. In some sense, I always feel like that it's watching me back. A faint static, a crackle, then gone. I saw a show recently where parents decorated their children as Christmas ornaments. They were like tiny gifts they planted under the tree. The youngest child wandered off. He planted himself up to his waist in fresh garden soil outside. He said, "I am a flower to be held and loved, but you must come find me first." The red of the rose petal, he said, was the same red as his mother's lips. "I shall wait here in the garden, and there will be many things to speak about here." He lets the image hang. Clinician. Oh, what happens in the coldest winter when the ground freezes and the snow is filled high on the ground? What can grow there? Lighting cools abruptly. Winter blue. Patient reaches for the top Life magazine, holds it, but doesn't open it. Did I tell you that I collect Life magazines, the older editions? They have such beautiful glossy covers, those stylized red letters. Oh my God, I love them. There was one cover that I remember, simple wooden houses on a hillside. It was a village. A child was being taken away from his mother. The men's bodies that took the child, they were covered. The faces were obscured. Lighting tightens. You could see the pain across the mother's face. You could see something opening up in her. You could see a wound. And I told myself, I convinced myself somehow that this is life. That this is life. And I asked, what is this life? He lowers the magazine. Clinician. And what was your answer? Patient leans forward, energized. Well, in some sense, it's just the too much. It's the too many. There's just too many possibilities. And if I didn't flip, if I didn't fly, if I didn't tumble or jump or connect, parapraxis, paralyzed, profundity, permutation. If I didn't perform this multiplicity, I guess I'd have to probably take your needs into consideration. I'd have to take in your needs as the one who listens. He gestures rapidly now, hands flipping and tumbling. And so I flip and I flee into this sudden speech, and I make everything elusive because it's funny that way. Isn't it funny when I do this? Isn't it funny, and isn't it me? Isn't it me performing for you? Am I not what you imagine me to be? A brittle laugh. Clinician. I hear that it's important that I imagine this question of what I imagine you to be. Why do you think that is? Patient stands, begins slow pacing. When I used to work in the film studio, we used to edit. We used to splice things together, okay? We cut sections and we'd make them connect seamlessly. Patient mimes holding a film. Then I discovered how natural it was, for instance, to be a butcher's wife, a beautiful woman, to dispatch her approaches towards her lover. And when the butcher came across a section of the pig that was unpleasant, he'd simply just chop it off. He'd cut it off. It would simply just be removed. It seemed easy that way. He makes a small slicing gesture, then he sits. And there was a boy that I saw who soaked his hands and face in water at least 30 times a day. He said worms lived under his skin, and they would burst out if they dried. A faint dripping sound, then silence. Patient continues. And his brother would write letters saying, well, I hope your skin condition gets better. I hope you get better. But the boy read them as, we hope that you do not get better. So he knew that twisting and shaping his words, slicing them up, was some way to deliver on some need, some unspoken desire, an unspoken promise, perhaps. Clinician, well, you talk about a secret, or you talk about a promise. What kind of promise are you talking about? Patient, voice, soft, almost breaking. That there would never be enough to fill him. That his cries would go unheard, or that the mother misunderstood what they meant completely. The promise, some secret, seemed to be buried there. I ask, what happens when an oral phase is met? What happens after the anal phase is attained? Specifically, I'm talking about longing. What about the longing that's left after the need is met? He looks towards the envelope but does not touch it. Patient continues speaking almost clinically. Here is where something falls out. This minimal distance between two things. The lost object, where something is lost. That sweet, cooing sound. Light narrows to a tight circle. Patient continues. It's a message sent from our earliest life towards the future, and it lands in the body. Who could ever know that? Who could ever know this uncertainty? A long silence. Clinician, and yet you speak from that distance. Patient, looking out towards the audience, hand lifted towards the envelope. Yes, from the place where something was never met, and it still keeps calling out. His hand hovers above the envelope, suspended. Lights fade slowly to black. The low hum dissolves. The end.